Hello, I'm Laura Rogers, and this is Joelle Jobson. This is Power Hour. And this week we are going to learn how to create a flow that uses an Excel script and creates a chart in the Excel spreadsheet with our dynamic data and then spits out the chart. And you can send that in an email. You can have it create a file in SharePoint. You can have it create it, add it to some sort of report. So this has got amazing possibilities. I'm really excited about this. I know I've been nerding out about this all morning. I called Joelle like almost first thing in the morning. I was like, you got to see this. This is so cool. This is just, my mind is blown. Anyway, so like I'm really nerding out over this. It's so fun. Okay, so I'll go ahead and again, Power Hour is live. You never know what's going to happen. We have a live chat going on in Teams. So if you'd like to join us and chat with us, there is a link at the bottom wherever you're watching this video to click to fill out a form to request to join. Hey, everybody, let me know what you think as we're going. This is a really fun one. So before I start sharing my screen, I'll give you a quick background as to how I got to deciding to do that. And I'm glad you all voted on it, by the way, too, because I kind of really wanted to do this as a topic, and you all overwhelmingly voted on this yesterday. So my husband Chris was saying, is there a way to generate files in SharePoint, like reports, and have them just generated every night? And it kind of reminded me of SSRS, like the way we used to do SSRS, the way SQL Server reporting services, the way you could set it up to go ahead and just spit out reports and put them in SharePoint or send them in an email every day of some data. So that kind of reminded me of that concept. So then I started digging into figuring out how I could make a flow, create a chart. I was thinking I would have to create some sort of SVG file with dynamic data. I wasn't sure. Well, maybe that's possible. But in my Googling and Binging, I found Damien, and I put a couple of links in the resources in the chat to a couple of his YouTube videos. And so Damien's videos are awesome, and he clearly knows way more about Excel scripts than I do. So what I've been doing is piecing together concepts that I would want to do with SharePoint data with some of the concepts he was doing with Excel data in his demos, and trying to kind of see what I could do with making it, using the concept of what you could do with like SSRS reports, having it create files, but also just being able to have a chart of your data from SharePoint. I think is pretty cool. So I'll go ahead and chat with us when you want to, when you have ideas or you think stuff is cool. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Okay. This is a spreadsheet, but what I'm going to start with is a flow, and I'm going to show you sort of the end results of the flow. I'm going to kick off a couple of flows, and then I'll show you just kind of a very basic one that I created and how I did it. And then I'll show you, kind of, it's really to kind of get you thinking about all the possibilities and you wanting to spend a lot of time kind of digging in and be able to do it yourself, but kind of showing you what all the pieces are involved. So I've got a SharePoint list with, I just called it ice cream. So these could be like your ice cream flavors. I don't know why I called them first, second, third, fourth, but let's say like vanilla. So then it's just a number. So again, I'm starting out very simple of just wanting to create a chart of just this data with these numbers in this column. So I'm going to go to my flow here and make sure and zoom in. And then this is the one that I created as the first test. So I'll run it and show you what it does. And then I'm going to go ahead and just run both of them, but so that we can kind of have things going on behind the scenes. The second one is the more advanced one that I've been kind of tweaking just up to the last minute, but the first one is just very basic. So here's what Excel script test is doing. It's taking that simple SharePoint list of ice cream flavors, think about like sales numbers or something like that, and it's going to create a very simple pie chart. Now you can do this with not just pie charts, but other types of charts, any kind of chart that you can create in Excel. Again, I was just doing it very simple. And then I've got my email that's arriving. So this is the one that I see. It's 11:05. It just ran. So this is my pie chart. See, it says vanilla, second, third, fourth. And those are my ice cream flavors. And those are the numbers from, see that represents, see the third one has got a 6. It's got a bigger number. So those are the numbers all represented in a pie chart. What do y'all think? Is that pretty cool so far? I think that's, like, as soon as I got this very first thing working, I was like nerding out, completely nerding out. So that's the first thing that I'm going to show you how to do, is just the concepts of getting it to create a chart with your data. And then we'll try and, build upon that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create I'm going to just OneDrive here. I'm just going to create a new Excel document instead of, going into the ones that I've already created. And so what you're going to do is you're going to use an Excel file to create you're creating a macro, of course, which you can use across several Excel files, but you're going to have a spot that it puts the data. So the flow is going to take the data from SharePoint, put it in a spreadsheet, and then the spreadsheet is going to generate the chart off of the data. And then that Excel script is going to take the chart and send it back to the flow, and then you send it in an email. So that's how that's the very simple way of explaining how it works. So the first thing you'll need to do is record a macro of the steps involved in creating a chart. So what I like to do is just to have let me zoom in again. Just create something from scratch here. And then what you can do is just replace the hard-coded information that you're typing in the spreadsheet with your information from SharePoint. So I'll just say like flavor and then value. That'll just be the number. And then I can just make up I'll just put a couple just to be able to have a table in here, because I need to have a table in order to have that get sent back to the flow. So this is going to be a table. I want to make sure this is an actual table in Excel. And then it's just going to create it. It's just going to give it a name of table 1. If I was in the Excel client, I would be able to go in and actually name all my ranges and name my table something other than table 1. I'm just going to go with table 1. In Damien's videos, you'll notice that he actually is going in and giving everything proper names, and his code is very neat and organized, and he explains it all. So then here you go to this automate tab, and look at this. It's got all this Excel script stuff. So this is pretty interesting, because when you go to all scripts here, it actually has sample scripts. So it's got a way that you can go and, I don't know code, I'm not a developer. It's got a way that you can go in and kind of figure some of this out and dig in and at least see examples of how things are done. So that's huge. And then it's got, these are the scripts that I've been creating. So what you do is you need to just record your actions. So you don't have to know every single line of the syntax of what you're doing to create a pie chart or whatever kind of chart it is. You just need to record your actions. And then there are just a couple of things we'll do in here, but to be able to make it so that you can send the data back to the flow. And those are the kind of extra things that I really had to dig in, and I kept clicking pause on Damien's videos to be able to figure out kind of where he was putting things in the code. So I'm going to click record my actions, and now it is recording. It's whatever I do, it's creating a new script for me. And then I'm going to just say insert, and this time I'll do a bar chart. I don't know. So I'll just do a bar chart, and obviously this is a very, very simple bar chart. Now, you can spend a lot of time. This is where in the real world, you would be spending a lot of time. You'd have a lot more data than this. You would be labeling, going into the chart settings here and labeling the chart and labeling the axes and the different, and just kind of, setting up your chart. If you're an Excel person and you know how to work with charts. So, but I'm just pretty much just leaving it pretty plain. I'm not going to spend a lot of time configuring the chart, but you will probably want to. And there are a whole bunch of settings here where you can do your data labels and your colors, etc. Okay, but all I've done is inserted a chart, and then I'm going to go ahead and just click stop. And so it recorded my actions, and now I can go look at this and I can see it's just named my table. It says table 1 equals this workbook get table. I like to say, I'll just name this Laura table. This is kind of like a variable that it's creating. Let Laura table equal, and then it's getting the name of this table 1. And then it says it's inserting a chart, and it says let chart _1 equals, and then it's that chart that I created. And I'll just call this one Laura bar chart. This is some of that stuff that I was talking about, that like Damien was, being meticulous and naming things correctly. So it helps for you to be able to understand what I'm doing. I wish I could make this text bigger. It helps for you to understand what I'm doing, to see kind of where I'm naming things. Let's see if I can zoom in even more. There we go. Okay, so now if I delete this chart, let me go ahead and save my script. If I delete this chart and then push play, look at that. So now, see, that's what it's doing. It's creating the chart. Pretty cool. So the idea is that I want to take the chart, I want to dynamically put some data in here in the table, have it create the chart, and then have it like email the chart or create the chart as a file in SharePoint. So I'll go ahead and, so what I learned in his videos is that what he's doing is just starting from scratch every time and having it create the chart, and then you're sending the chart back to the flow, but then you're just deleting it. You're not leaving it in here. So let's go look at, I'm gonna save my script and give it a better name. I'll call it Power Hour Demo. And then it's saved. And then I'm going to go back to all scripts here. So even though I'm not in the file, the other file that I had where I was running it from the flow that I haven't showed you yet, I can still refer to my other scripts in here. So like simple list to pie was the pie chart that I had. So I'm going to go back in here and look at a couple of things that I had to do. So see, it's naming my table. I've already done that. It's naming my chart. And then what I'm doing, the extra thing that you have to do is you have to make it give you the chart as an image, because you're going to take that image, and the image is what you're sending back to the flow. So that's why you have to let pie chart image equal, and then whatever your name of the chart is, dot get image. So I'm going to copy that to my clipboard. Because basically I'm going to take this code and paste it in the other script that I just created. And then this is the part where you have to delete it, whatever the name of your chart is. And then, so from my flow, what I'm doing is I'm doing an add rows action, and I'm adding the rows to Excel. But after I've added the rows, I don't want to delete the whole table. I just want to delete the rows that I just added. So this is one of those things where I had to just go Google it. Like I said, I'm not a programmer. I just had to go Google it and Bing it and figure out what this code is supposed to be to go delete all the rows out of a table. So what I'm having to do is count the rows, and then delete the rows and tell it how many rows to delete. Because I want to leave the headers in there, because I need to be able to put dynamic data in that table. So I'm taking that, and I'll copy that to my clipboard. And then this is the part where you're returning data to your flow. So once we get this Excel script action that we're using in the flow, whatever I'm returning here. So if I have multiple things that I'm returning to the flow, it's not multiple return lines. You're actually using a comma. You're saying, and whenever Damien did it in his video, he had a couple of different charts he was returning. So it's the name of this chart, comma, the name of the other chart. So you just put commas between them. So I'll just copy that too.
Laura.
And of course, it helps to have notes. And I'm not editing that one. So this is the one, the Power Hour demo. So all I have to do now is change what I was naming things. And so I'm just copying and pasting this code that I just showed you, and I'm just changing what I'm naming things. So let pie chart image equal, and then this chart, I called it Laura bar chart instead of Laura chart, because the other one was a pie and this one's going to be a bar, just so you can see two different ones. And then let row count equal Laura table. Yeah, I called it Laura table in both of them. So I don't see any errors. And then I called it pie chart image, and this other one, I'm going to call this one bar chart image. So when I change the name of it, bar chart image, you can see it's got a little red squiggly. Oops. Okay, save. So now it's still just got that same data in it, but let's see, when I delete this and run it, see, real fast, it created the chart and then deleted it and wiped out the table. So that's what I want. So now it's time to go over to the flow. So I'll go ahead and this spreadsheet is just called book. I better give it a better name, huh? Power demo file, whatever. Okay. And then this is where I'm going over to my flow. And I'll do a new flow. So think about what you would want to be your trigger for a flow like this. I'm just doing a manual trigger just because these are very simple to show in demos, but you might want to have this be a recurrence, be something that runs once a week automatically, or maybe you want it to be something that you provide them a button somewhere for them to click to run it, or you could even have a button in a Power App that people click to kick this off. So think about all the possibilities of how you could trigger this, and let me know in the chat what you think about ideas you're getting for how you could use something like this. So I'm just going to manually trigger it. Demo. And then when I manually trigger it, I'm going to go get those items from that SharePoint list. SharePoint, get items. I'm going to get the ice cream flavors. So that's my modern demo and my ice cream. And I'm just getting everything in the list. That's not very real world. So in the next demo, I'll show you how you could, of course, you could get just a subset of the items. And in Damien's demo, he has it so it gets a subset of items and sends that person a report, and gets another subset of items and sends another person a report. So he's got a whole dynamic thing where he sends separate images to separate people and even sends it to them in teams. So again, totally check out his videos too. There's just, I'm putting more of a SharePoint spin on it. So then I'm going to Excel Online and add a row to a spreadsheet. Add a row to a table, sorry. So then I just put my spreadsheet in OneDrive. You can put it in a Microsoft 365 group / SharePoint team site. So these are all the names of my SharePoint team sites. Again, just for simplicity, I just put it in OneDrive. And then the file is this demo, Power Hour demo file, the one that I just created. And then the table is just table 1. Because that's, again, like I said, you'd have to open it in the desktop client, an Excel desktop client, to properly name all of your tables. Okay, now these, as soon as I selected table 1, it's showing me the 2 columns. Remember, it was flavor and value. So now it's asking me what content I want to put in those rows. So I'm going to take the title of the item in SharePoint. As soon as it knows it's looping through all these items I just got from SharePoint, it puts it in a loop, which is fine. So for each thing it comes across, it's adding a row to a spreadsheet. And then the value is this value column that I created. That's not a very good name for a column, is it? I think, Joelle, that there might be a more efficient way, like with these Excel actions. So think about if you have like 1,000 rows of data, adding one row at a time might not be the most efficient. So I encourage you all to try out the other actions. Like I think there are actions having to do with like creating a table and doing other things like that. So it might be better if there's a way to add all the data in one fell swoop. That could be another path you might want to go to look down if you have a ton of data. I'm just adding one row at a time in this example. And then once I've added all the rows, then that's when I'm going to run the script. So it'll just be running behind the scenes. So I say, where is the script? It's also, it's in OneDrive. File, and that's my Power Hour demo file. And then it's asking me for the script. And that is my Power Hour demo, is the script that I just created. And then once it runs the script, this is where you have, let me go ahead and just save this. It's going, after it runs the script, it's going to return the thing that I put in the return part of that code. It's going to give me back that, it's going to be kind of cryptic. So, and Damien has this in his video of how he does this syntax of turning the data that it returns into an actual PNG file. So that's just a very specific little chunk of code that I'm going to go into this other flow and go grab that. So I'm just using a compose action, and this action above it is called run script. So it's just referring to the outputs of run script, and it's putting this image / PNG thing around it. And this is how it turns that content that gets returned from Excel into an actual PNG file. So I'm going to copy that to my clipboard and then just go back to, should have just left that one open. Okay, so here's the one that I'm creating, Power Hour Demo Excel, and then I'm creating a compose action. Let's see. What do y'all think? Isn't this cool? Any old school macro creators like me? Compose. No, Gene, I'm not going to the Power Platform Conference. I'm speaking at a conference called Tech is the Experts Conference put on by Quest Software. That's the one I'm speaking at next week, so we won't be having Power Hour. All right, so I'm composing, so I'm just going to call this compose PNG. And then after I compose the PNG, this is where, what do you want to do with it? So I could just send it in an email, which would be very simple. So I'll just say email. And I'll just send it to myself. I could just send it to whoever just kicked off the flow, which of course is myself anyway. And then test bar chart. And then see attached. Another cool thing that Damien had in his video was how to make the image be actually part of the body of the email, as opposed to having to put it in as an attachment. Let's see, bar chart file.png is the name of the file, and I'm using this compose, what I did in the compose action, as that's the actual body of the file. Okay, save that. And I'm going to run this, and then I'm just, in the meantime, I'm going to double check my other one to make sure that I included everything in it. Oh, it wants me to authenticate to all these services real quick. There we go. Run. Okay, now, so what it's doing is it's going to get the data from SharePoint, from that list that I pointed to. It's going into that spreadsheet, and it's adding each item to the table that I created on the left. And then it's getting that image file and then sending it in an email. And where's my test email? Test bar chart. Look at that. Okay, so there are my items from SharePoint. Can I get a golf clap? Pretty cool. Okay, so then I decided I wanted to ramp it up and see what else I could do with this. So to me, having just a hard set list of stuff and having a bar chart over is not really the most useful thing. What I would like to have is the ability to group things and have it look at a big long list of, maybe you had ice cream sales over the last month and you had a list of a whole bunch of the same ice cream flavor could be listed multiple times. It's going to have different numbers for different days, and you want to group it all together and see a total of ice cream sales for the month. So that's where you might want to have a pivot chart. So a pivot chart is a way to do it. Now, another way to do something like that could be just in the flow itself by using something like a join expression. But I decided to go ahead and just record a macro of adding a pivot chart to Excel and then creating the pie chart off of the pivot. That way you have it grouped. So in the example that I did, I used issue tracker. So I have a list of all these issues of help desk issues, and I want to get a report of based on status. I need to know how many things are of each status in the list. So I need to know just all the things that are not completed. So I do have a status called completed. I want to filter it out. So just all the ones that are open right now, I want a report of how many of each status that I have. So then I would want it grouped, right? There is also, when it comes to grouping, there's a way in PowerApps. We did a whole other Power Hour about this. The group by function will let you do something like that. And you can, we did another Power Hour about creating charts just in PowerApps too, but that doesn't send it in an email. Okay, so I've got my issue list that I'm looking at, and then let's go look at my issue status report. So this is the one that I clicked play right when I started Power Hour, and it just now sent me the email. So it takes a little longer for that. There are a good bit of issues in that list. And again, another reason why the adding a row one at a time to the spreadsheet might not be the most efficient way if you have a ton of data. So what I did here was, now when I created the chart, I should have put the numbers in the chart so it displays how many of each type of status that we have. But what I wanted to convey is that it is showing them as grouped. So let's go look. So that is the end result. And also I had it in this one, another end result of this one is that I had it put it in a library. So this one takes the image, just the PNG, and puts it just directly in a library. And then the other thing that I'm going to have it do that I'm going to build on in the flow is to have an actual report and use that word template action in flow, which is a premium action, and have it create a lovely report with data in it and the chart as part of the report instead of just a PNG. So that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to build on that, and I'm going to, just because this takes a minute to run, takes like 5 to 10 minutes to run, I'm going to go ahead and add the part where it populates the file and creates it in SharePoint, and maybe even convert it to PDF, and then go back and show you the Excel file. So in my flow, I'm doing 3 different branches here. So I'm doing the same thing. I'm getting a list of items, I'm running a script, and this one's just the one where I'm going to show you the pivot chart that I created. And then I just wanted to show you the whole reason of these parallel branches is that there are just different things we can do with that PNG file that it creates for us. So we can send it in an email, we can create the file, that's the file I just showed you. And then another thing we could potentially do would be to create a lovely report and include the image in the report. So that's where I'm going to go over here. And I don't know why it's all cut off because I zoomed in so far. Let's see. There. That's weird. It won't let me create a new step right after that other one. Oh, there we go. That's what I want to do. So once it populates the Microsoft Word document, I'm just going to have it create a file, again, just in OneDrive. And based off of this file that I just populated. So my folder path is just going to be the root in OneDrive. I'll call it, I like just to give these unique names. I can put UTC now in the name. File name is just going to be utcnow.docx. And then the content is this Word document I just generated. And then I can convert it to PDF. And that's a OneDrive action that I'm going to use. Convert. That's the free convert file to PDF action. And so I'm going to give it this file that I just created. I can never remember if it needs ID or identifier, just ID. Okay. And I'm creating it as a PDF. Then I'm going to create a file in SharePoint, not OneDrive. And I'm going to put the PDF in SharePoint. And I think I've done other Power Hours before where we did a whole Power Hour about converting things to PDF. So that's why I'm kind of just breezing through this. So I'll put that in my modern demo. I'll put that in my document library, generic document library. And then the file name is that file name and that file content from what I just converted. Okay. Save. Oops. Inputs required. What did I do? Oh, delete that. Okay, and then I'm going to run this, and then I'll dig into all the details of the pivot chart. Run. Okay, so now we'll go back to OneDrive. And so this was my Power Hour demo file. I'll just go back in there. And so I'm not going to mess with what it looks like, do I have this open in another? It makes me think I have it open in another window because it shows me also editing it. Yeah, I do. There we go. There. Okay, so the other thing that we're going to do with the pivot table is, again, if you start from scratch, then you have to kind of mock up maybe just a few pieces of data of what it's going to look like, and then be able to put that, run this, create a script, record yourself creating a pivot chart, and then also creating a like a pie chart or a bar chart off of that. So you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and create a new file just to keep it separate. And I'll say issue, and then status, priority, date, completed, let's see, wait, assigned to, not assigned to, let's see, category maybe, I don't know. So just whatever, even description if I want, of these issues. And then I can just make something up. And then I can just I need to make sure that this is a table. So I'll say insert table. Yes, it has headers. So now I officially have a table, and it probably called it table 1 like it always does. And then I'm going to go ahead and let's see, base. So I'm going to base a pivot chart off of this table. Now, of course, to get a better feel for what the pivot chart is going to be, you might want to type a little more fake data in here. But I'm going to choose insert pivot table just from table range, and it doesn't really matter where you put it. I'll just say source is table 1. Yes. And what do I want to create? Where do I want to create it? So I'm going to just say existing sheet. I'm just going to create it just on the same sheet. And then it's asking me exactly where I want to put it. And I'll just put it here. It doesn't really matter. It's going to create it and then do what it's going to do and then delete it, just like that last one that we did. Okay, so I'll say insert. And then it's asking me to configure my pivot table. So of course, I haven't used pivot tables in years. I used to use Excel much more than I do now. But if you are an Excel guru and you know a lot about pivot tables, you can just go to town right here. I'm just going to keep this simple, and I want a list of statuses because I want a list of how many of each status that we have. So I'm going to say status is going to be my row, and then I'll say status count of status is going to be my value. So this is what's going to create that list. And you saw it in the email in that chart that I showed you. See, it's got a list of all the different statuses, and it's how many of each status that I have that's generating the pie chart. So that's going to be the goal. So let's see, demo, Power Hour, demo, pivot. So then once it creates the pivot chart, then you're going to do the same thing. Now, I had to do this a couple of times. I had to create the pivot chart and create the table and kind of practice what my steps were to make sure I got it right. Because then you have to record yourself doing it. So you have to record yourself creating the pivot chart and then creating the table from the pivot chart. So let's go look at, instead of recording it all over again and then looking at that code, I'm going to show you the code from the other one that I already did. So, and it's not that different from the first one that we did. So this one's create pivot and pie, the pivot chart, and then the pie chart off of that. So it is, let me zoom in a little bit more. That's a lot of zooming. So it's just using that table 1 again. It's creating, it just used this new pivot table name when I was recording myself, and I just went with that. And then all this was automatic. It automatically had the table 1, it had the range. Just the main thing that I had to do was I had to, let's see, name the image of the pie chart. So that's the important part. That's the thing you have to send back to the flow, and that's not automatically going to be in here. So I had to add the let whatever the name of my chart is equal, and then the name, you type the name of your chart dot get image, and then that is what gives you an image. And then I'm doing the same thing where I count the rows in order to delete them. I delete the rows, I delete the pivot table, and I delete the chart. And then this return thing has to be at the end. If you try to put stuff after the return, it grays it out. And then I'm just telling it to return the pie chart image, and that's what it returns back to the flow. So this one's almost the same concept. It's just adding that, what I think is more important, level of grouping to it, so that you don't just have this wall of a bunch of data and then a pie chart is kind of useless, because then you'd have 100 different pieces of pie in the pie chart, right? That concept makes sense, what I'm talking about with the grouping. So to me, a pivot table is just an easy way to do grouping. But again, with this grouping concept, you have several different methods available to you. You could do, if you're creating a button in your Power App to send an email and do all this, then you could actually do a group by function in Power App and have the data grouped already. And then so then you're starting out with a different set of data that you're sending to your flow. And it's already grouped and it's already got like the sums. And then another method is going to be to, of course, do a pivot table. And then I think that there's a flow action. And Damien in his videos uses this action called join. And I think the join action might give you the ability to do that within the flow itself. So those are all possible ways of grouping your information. So let's go see what that more advanced flow looks like and what it's doing. So this one is my issue status weekly chart. And what I'm doing in mine is a lot of the same steps I just showed you. I'm getting, now in this case, I'm only getting the open issues. I only want a weekly report of open issues. I don't want to get every single thing in the whole list. So I'm just saying filter it, the issues where status is not equal to completed. Let me zoom in a little bit more on that one too. Status NE for not equal completed. And that is an issue tracker. That's based off just the issue tracker list template in SharePoint. And then I'm doing the same thing where I'm adding a row to a table. Now, what I kind of threw in here that I was trying is that concept of using the word template. So that's why I'm going to show you this array thing that I'm doing. But the word template is just another place that you could potentially put this image. So you can send it an email, you can create it as a file, and then you might want to incorporate it into a lovely looking report. Now the word template action is a premium action. So that means you have to pay more. You have to have a premium license to be able to run this. Now, if you're just running this as a weekly, just automatic weekly flow, it's just running as you, the person who created the flow, which is really just one license. Kind of keep that in mind. So I'm populating a word template, and then I'm taking that chart and I'm putting it into the Word document as an image. And then what I was playing around with was taking and showing a list of what those issues were and showing a chart as well to show how you can kind of combine different things into the document. So this is adding a row to a table. And this is just putting, it's got 4 columns. It's got issue, status, date reported, and priority. And then when I'm populating a Microsoft Word template, again, that's premium, but Damien shows in his video how you can do the other method of just writing straight HTML. Now, the writing straight HTML and incorporating images in it and doing that is, I just thought that was a little bit too technical for the level that we usually get in Power Hour, but I highly recommend you go look at his videos that I put in the resources. Let me go make sure that I point that out to you too. And I will, so here are the resources. I'll go ahead and pin that. And then whenever you go to click the little I in here, yeah, there you go. Now you can see the resources, and that will take you straight to these several different links that I put having to do with, being able to dig in and try this yourself. Okay, so, but he shows the other way. He shows the straight writing HTML method of generating this sort of report, nice looking report as well in his, but I just did the one method of the word template. Now the word template, what is that? So I went into Word, and I wanted it to look lovely, but I didn't want to spend much time. So you know how Word has all those built-in templates? So I found a template that looked like a weekly report, and I just picked it because it looked pretty, because it looked fancy. And then what you do, I don't know, Joelle, if I had this extensively in our training courses, like 2 hours of it. I don't remember if we did this in a Power Hour or not, though. It's that concept of having being able to use the developer tab in Word and inserting this dynamic data. So you have a nice, pretty Word document that you get looking just like you want. And then you insert, like I was inserting like a repeating table here. And I named it like this is the status, or like this is the name of the issue, or whatever you want it to be. And then this is the second column, whatever you want the data to be in that. And then this is a dynamic image. So these three pieces of data are going to be available in my flow to be able to just plop whatever information I want to be in them. So the the list of issues, what I'm doing in the flow is I'm generating an array so that I can take that array and put it as the dynamic information in this report. So this is why I initialized an array variable. Now, if you ever see in your flow, if you ever see let me zoom back out a little bit so I can scroll over. I'll just delete this. If you ever see something like this in a flow where it's got sort of two different things like an attachment name and content, or like when you're using the word template, if you've got this repeating table and it's got sort of two rows that are in the repeating table and you have this little switch to input entire array toggle button, you'll see that in different places in flow when you have maybe like a choice list of multiple things, like a people picker. When you're trying to do an update item action in a flow and it's a people picker that has multiple people, anytime you have the ability to have a list of multiple things within that action, that's where you'll see this little toggle to switch to input the entire array. So here's the little cheat to be able to figure out what the syntax is to be able to create an array to do that. I'll just go type a couple of X's in these boxes and then click the little toggle. And then this gives me my syntax. So I'll take this and put it in Notepad so you can see it. And so this is the structure of what it wants my array to be. So and these are the names of the two fields that I created in that word template. So it's just, okay, what do you want to be in this column in the word template? This is where your data will go. And then what do you want to be in this column? And then that's where I can take that and fill it in. So as I'm looping through each of these items and adding them to the spreadsheet, I'm also appending them to array. So this is where I'm ramping it up to make it more advanced, to not only just generate a chart, but generate a list of things to display it above the chart in a pretty Word document. So that's where I'm appending to array variable. Then I'm just running the script, and that's the same concept where you just tell it which script you want to run. And because it will, as soon as you pick the file, it will recognize what scripts you have available. And then I'm doing the exact same thing that I showed you in the previous one, where I'm just creating sort of this code to make it generate a PNG file from that cryptic data that it returns from the spreadsheet from running the script. And then here's the part where now that I've generated that array, let me clear this out. I can toggle this button, and then that's where it says to input the entire array. Now I can just put this array in here, because for each item that I'm looping through, I'm appending them to an array. So that's how it's creating a list of items for me. And then it's going to put that in the Word template. Now, this thing is taking a while. Let me see. Ooh, that is huge. Let me just go back. And see what it's doing. I could have sworn I ran it again. I ran it 16 minutes ago, but I don't think I ran it. I could have sworn I ran it after I added the part where you convert it to PDF. Maybe I didn't. We'll see what it does. Okay, so it's running. The part that it takes a while for some reason is it's adding the row to the table, and for some reason, I don't know, it's only 28 rows. That's the part that takes a while. So the cool thing about that is you can actually watch. Let me close this. You can actually watch it happen. So this is my test pivot. See, you can see it adding.
The Excel things always take forever.
Rows. So again, it gets stuck in a certain place and just kind of gets really slow, but you can see the rows appearing and you can actually watch the script run, see, as the flow is running. So not only can you watch the
The
dynamic
Excel
flow
stuff always
running, you
takes
can
forever.
watch, like, just open the Excel file and watch everything happening behind the scenes. So it looks like it just went through the 28 rows. Then it would go through the part where it creates the pivot table and the chart and all that stuff. Okay, what do we have going on in the chat? Let's see. What do you all think? What kind of ideas are you getting for how this could work? Oh, here we go. Let's see. So that's the report it ran. And that's the one I already showed you, just 1150, so just now. And then it went to SharePoint and it did create the PDF. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's see. It's the moment of truth here. Oh, look at that. Well, that table is kind of ugly the way I created it, so that was kind of, that doesn't look the most lovely, but okay. So I've got a little bit of like shaping as far as the dimensions of the chart go and finagling this the way this status report looks, but the idea, that's pretty cool, right? So yeah, so what I would have to do is figure out better the dimensions. So in Word, when I created this report, see, I just put it in here as a square. So I probably want to figure out like the dimensions of kind of the way it generates it in the spreadsheet, and then make this match kind of the way that is supposed to look. And then these all had like this big gap in between them for some reason. I would just need to figure out, kind of just play around with this table and figure out why it's behaving like that. So there's my status row. Yeah, see, it's got like this space right here, and that's what's causing it to do that. Delete? I don't know. But yeah, you get the gist. So it took this report, this Word document, and it put all my data in the report from that array, and then it generated a chart and then inserted the chart into the Word document. Any questions? Is that too fast? Too much? Oh, I can't hear you. Let me see. Did I turn it down? Sorry. Well, I saw you typing something about not being able to hear you. I think I turned it down when I was blathering on about something. What was it?
It was earlier, so it means
Oh,
out of context now. It's no worries.
oh,
I just put it in the chat.
oh, okay. I get in the habit of doing that, don't I? Because the echo just it throws me off, and I can't talk when I have an echo. Let's see.
Yeah, I always feel bad because I'm always wanting to like interject things, and then I
I
like realize you
know. I'm
can't hear me,
like,
so I just go, well, okay, never mind.
and I forget that I turned it
Never mind.
down, and I
Sometimes I
don't
wave,
realize that I
but you
can't.
don't see me.
Gosh, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's
I'm
alright.
such a slacker. I just this whole
You know,
live
I
video
get
thing.
echoes are annoying.
Gary said, "Did I miss the pivot table?" That is. Let me see if I can run the pivot table one without having it delete the pivot table. Let's see. Go into my automate. I'll take out the delete part. Just comment that out. And then save it. And the thing is, I don't know how long it takes to run. Let me see. Let me go run that again. Resubmit. So then when it's resubmitted, so right now it's adding all the items to the spreadsheet. Okay, so you can see them being added. And then as soon as it finishes adding all the items, then it will add the pivot. Let me move this. I've got too many windows open. So what? I just couldn't show it to you because because I had the script, so it deletes it after it creates it, but it's generating it and then generating a chart off of it and then deleting both the pivot chart and the chart. But so I just commented out the delete lines, and now let's see if it does it. I think it's got one. There we go. One more. And go. I don't know why it's not. So let me close it and go back in. Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay, yeah. So this is where it, in the script, it created the pivot chart based off of the count of status of the item. So I didn't comment out the part where it deleted all the original items, but you could see that it left the pivot chart in here and it created this chart off of the data here in the pivot chart. So that way it's grouped. So that way I get a good indication of the overall concept of how many statuses we have open instead of a pie chart directly off of the data that's not grouped, which would not be very useful. Make sense? Okay, you can watch the rerun. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad y'all came. Is anybody else nerding out about that like me? Well, awesome.
I love Excel tricks.
Yeah.
Those are my
Makes me want to use Excel more. Now I'm like backtracking through the comments. Okay. Well, the big announcement that I had that I said I was waiting to the very end was I rolled out the approval panel new product in our on our website. So for those of you who are Ultimate subscribers already, you'll be able to go into your dashboard and see it. It's called PowerApps Approval Panel. So remember, a couple of years ago, I did a Power Hour about how to create, just the concept of how you could create an approval panel in a Power App. And that way everything's in one central place and everything's your form and the approval process that you have to go through, all the approvers are just in a panel down the right side. And then that way it keeps it simple and it keeps everything in one place. And there's just a lot of logic involved. So I only had 1 hour and I crammed as much of it as I could into that hour, but I didn't really have time to go through like the step-by-step of building the whole thing. So now let's see. Yeah. So now those of you who are Ultimate members, you'll be able to have that. You go to my dashboard right now and it's in there, Power Apps Approval Panel. So it's just part of our Ultimate plan. So I just rolled it out right before I started Power Hour, and now you'll be able to go through the whole thing, and it's all videos of the whole like step by step and the actual step by step instructions to go build it yourself. And I actually walk through the lab instructions in all the videos and explain everything as I'm going through all the exercises. And then of course you can go do the lab and go through the exercises. So you all go have fun trying that out. I'm excited. It's taken a while to build all that. Okay, well, we're not having Power Hour next week. I hope to see you all in Atlanta next week at the tech conference, the Experts Conference put on by Quest Software. And I'll be there. It's September 19th through 21st, 22nd. And that's why we're not having Power Hour. So thanks everybody for coming. And hopefully I'll see you at that conference. And we'll see you week after next, if not. Over and out.